Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, brother. We can notice an early CSD sell on the monthly time frame, but at the same time, we tap into a fresh SNR and also a trend line on the monthly time frame. We had no weekly bullish breakout, although on a trend line perspective, advanced storyline on an advanced storyline perspective, we can see that we had our bullish breakout on the weekly time frame, right? Bullish breakout of the monthly trend line. So bullish storyline on the monthly, with the monthly being above the EMA 50 weekly time frame. We can see that we got an early CSD buy here, but at the same time we see that we are rejecting of the middle BB with a Bollinger Band quite in a sideway uh, profile. The early CSD buy we had on the weekly time frame is matching with this CSM buy we got on the daily time frame, and we got this CSM buy with a quite decent bullish profile on the Bollinger Band, right? With this divergence right here. Back to the weekly time frame, we can see price here tapped into this double area, and after this price failed, right? They tapped into this double area here, and then they pulled back, and then it came here and failed to break below this range, right? We had a range between this high and this low, right? And we see price exhaustion here, exhaustion, right? For that reason, the next target is potentially located right here. On the daily time frame, back to the daily time frame, we see that we are coming into a re-entry zone, right? On the H4 time frame, we can see that the AMA 50 is located below the lower band, and so this is giving us a nuclear setup, meaning re-entry zone on the daily time frame. And extreme, we had that extreme, right, with the MA 510. I mean, this is the MA 10, which got went below the lower band, right? MA 10 crossed below the lower band, right? So we have that extreme on the H4 re-entry zone on the daily time frame, right? H4 extreme. If we get some H1 market losing volume extreme plus market losing volume, it means we potentially gonna see a bullish setup. On the H4, we already can see that we had a full CSD with this bullish candle, right? Full CSD buy, right? As price came and broke above the MF510 high, and at the same time above the middle BB, right? With a single candle, right? So this is quite bullish, and at the same time we can see that we had here a market losing volume right here. So we're losing volume right at this point, and we also got a full CSD buy right here. On the daily time frame, we see that we have a Mahi 10 rejection, right? Mahi 10 rejection. Zooming out on the daily time frame, we see that this structure here, this is a pure that hold the price here, price hold it, but this structure here broke through it. This structure is a kind of a swap, right? We flipped this pure here with a closure, decent closure. Now zooming in, we can see that we have a little bit of a gap here. We have a gap, right? So price came and tapped into the gap, and this is what's enough, right, to consume this structure here, right? This flip structure, which is it's a pure in and of itself, right? This is a pure actually. So the period that we had here converged with the re-entry zone, rejection of the Mahi high, Mahi 10, Mahi 10, and oh, sorry, it's not the Mahi, it's the Malo, right? It's the Malo 10. This is the Malo 10 actually. Alright, Malo 10, rejection, converging with the gap, converging with this flip structure. Alright, we're quite bullish, bro. On the H4, we can see some scenario with this full CSD buy that we had. And so price coming back into the re-entry zone somewhere around here and continuing higher. You know what I'm saying? I'm selecting the candle liquidity level here, this little weak overlap, because it's kind of converge with the re-entry zone, even though we know the re-entry zone can evolve and start to move higher. The Bollinger Band, right, could could be become a little flat here and flat here, so price could come and hit the extreme at the same time, and at the same time we see that we had a liquidity here. Price swept that liquidity and formed a shadow hunt, right? TS. All right, so this apex could be an interesting level. All right, further, right, we tapped into this apex. We see that this level tapped into this apex and formed the TS, right? So we have a model 14B here, right, on the H4. Model 14B here on the H4 with this TS. On the H1, we can see what that we had a little bit of a CSM buy here, but I'm not really interested in this re-entry buy here, even though we can see on the M15 that we are at an extreme, because on the H1, this area doesn't converge with any like significant level, right? On the eccentric liquidation perspective, there is nothing interesting there, right? I need to check on the H2 maybe. All right, on the H2, we see that we're tapping into a candle liquidity, right? Actually, right, candle liquidity 50%, we are the 100% right here, right? So for that reason, I'm I could be interested, right? We see that we're also tapping into a re-entry buy on the H2. Now the thing is on the H2, mm, we are not expanding, right? The Bollinger Band isn't on our side, right? It's pretty much in the opposite. We start to see it squeezing, right? So means that this could eventually mean that we are more interested on the higher time frame, H4 maybe, for some re-entry, right? This means potentially that because the Bollinger Band is squeezing on the H2, that the H4 is coming for a re-entry, right? So this would could eventually be the actual area of interest, right? And this follows the H1 not being at a particular interesting level on an eccentric liquidation perspective, and I think even on an S&D perspective, there is no like double maru here to pay attention to this weak overlap. Weak overlap isn't really interesting, and this is not a double maru. See what I'm saying? So this level here is more interesting, right? So for that reason. Currently on the H1, we don't have any early CSD sell, but I could eventually be interested the moment I see a closure below the Malo here, 510. I could be interested into a re-entry sell. If price gives us an early CSD sell and then comes back for a re-entry sell on the H1, if the M15 is at an extreme, right? Maybe if the upper BB goes down like this and price rejects of this, we could eventually short to what this level. If price goes straight down into this then we could then start to scan for some longs from there, or we wait, maybe if price wants to go lower than this, like I said, toward the extreme, then we look for some shorts toward the extreme, right? Multiple scenarios.